Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Imbriali. I'm a community wellness advocate for the Counseling and Psychological Services here on campus. And today I'm going to be going through my Study Smarter, Not Longer workshop. And it's just to go over some tips and tricks on studying 101. You can use these tips and tricks for midterms week, finals week, and honestly, just any big exam that you have throughout your studies here at the university. So let's let the fun begin. So tip one is space out your studying. So don't leave your studying for one full day. You might, know that you have an exam coming up and you're just like, okay, I'll just study the day before. Cramming study time in for hours the day before the exam will leave you exhausted. And you want to make sure that you're well rested and at a good peace of mind before you're going into that exam to help alleviate any anxiety that you could be having before your big test. My advice is to give yourself 4 days to study for an hour or two each day. That way, you really give yourself time to go over all the material, but also you're making sure that you're not overwhelming yourself. You'll remember more information by avoiding studying for hours and hours back to back. You don't want to overwhelm your brain and just cram a bunch of information to it. Honestly, you're just going to probably stress yourself out and forget about a bunch of the stuff that you learned or you were trying to remember. And if you want to study right before the exam, it should be a quick review, maybe look over your a presentation super duper quick, maybe look over any index cards you have or any study notes that you made, but don't sit there for hours right before the test going back to back and back. You want to make sure that you're not feeling overwhelmed before you walk into that exam. Tip number 2 is to practice, practice, practice. So the only way to improve your studying skills is to practice it more. A lot of people find it really hard to study because they say that they don't necessarily know how to study. And that's okay because we're all different learners. But practicing will help you understand your studying style more and more as time goes on. Practicing also allows you to find out which studying tactic works best for you, just as I was saying. Practice tests will also help you prepare for taking the in-person test. So sitting down and going through a practice test could help maybe relieve a lot of the test anxiety that you might be having going into the exam because you giving yourself a better expectation about, what to expect going into that very moment. And practicing can also improve memorization. So a lot of the time our exams are vocabulary based, definition based, whatever it may be, where we need to remember storylines, or just the subjects and topics. Practicing multiple times will help improve your memorization. Honestly, for memorization purposes, I really suggest Quizlet, except especially if it's going to be definition based. Going through a lot of the index cards really helped me out, and I believe that it will help a lot of other people out too. So tip number 3 is to use pictures or examples. So just as we were talking about memorization, pictures can also help boost memory. And again, pictures and examples will work best for visual learners, but they can also work for multi-learners as well. Pictures can help you comprehend different concepts, and they're really, really good for science and math classes. Being able to see maybe the graph in front of you for either your science or math class will help you see the work and what it actually looks like and how it relates to the subject or the topic that's being taught. And like it says, examples allow concepts to be put into use. So if you're a visual learner, these work best for you. If you're a multi-learner, pictures can really be helpful. I know for me, I like to do a little when I'm doing memorization, I like to think of something else to relate to the word. And sometimes I use pictures or examples to do that. So that can also be something that works for you. So we are not perfect people. So my 4th tip is to accept mistakes. Mistakes are totally okay and they're normal, and they're especially normal when you're learning new things or new topics. And you can always learn from your mistakes. Mistakes show you what areas you need the help in most. If you're taking a practice test and you're getting 30 questions right, but you're getting 5 wrong, and it's the 5 questions have to be from the same chapter or the same general area of knowledge, that shows you, okay, I know what I did right, and now I can focus on fixing the wrong, and I can go back to that specific chapter and maybe give that chapter an extra 30 minutes of studying. Checking to see if your work is right. It makes studying more efficient. You don't want to go through practice exams or, again, vocabulary words, definitions matching, and not check if the work that you're doing is actually right. You want to make sure that you're studying the most efficient way possible. Um, and mistakes can also help you change your studying tactics and like point you in a new direction if you're learning. Maybe you're making mistakes because the way that you're studying or learning is not the best way for you. Maybe you're doing visual studying tactics, but you're more of an auditory learner. Mistakes can help you, get back on track of maybe I should switch my tactic or maybe I should try, this instead. Also, mistakes are normal. I know as a college student myself, sometimes we get very caught up in academic validation, but we have to, give ourselves a break, understand that like we're going to make mistakes and people are expecting you to make mistakes because that's what, the average person does. Learn, don't be so hard on yourself. Mistakes are okay. Don't stress about it. It's okay. Tip number 5 is to make a plan. So as college students, we handle multiple classes. A lot of us are in RSOs, a lot of us are on leadership teams. We are constantly doing a million things. And plans can help us keep us organized and keep us focused. So for instance, jumping around while studying become super distracting. Maybe you start on chapter 1 and you're like, wait, let me go to this one point in chapter 4 and let me go to this one point on chapter 3. That could be really distracting and can also, be super not efficient or inefficient, whatever the word may be. A plan can really help, keep you organized about what specific topics and specific chapters you want to study and in which order. Um, Again, we can also forget to set time aside. Um, Again, we have busy schedules, and maybe we're not, setting enough time aside throughout the week to study. A plan can help make sure that, you're like, okay, I have this class, I have this event, I can find time in between. Also, plans don't allow for shortcuts or possible missed opportunities to learn more. So if you know that, I have this time off or like my professor's having this office hours, plans can help you, make sure that you're going to those office hours or a study group that you and your friends are having. Plans also help use downtime to your advantage. So if you know, again, you have 4 hours in between one of your classes or an event, you can use 2 of those hours to lay in bed, scroll through TikTok, read a book, any self care that works for you. Take an hour to eat and then take an hour to study. And a plan will focus on creating a cycle between reviewing and your classwork. So you definitely don't want to push off any classwork or homework because you feel like you have to cram for an exam the day before. Knowing that you have an exam coming up, make a plan the week before or the week of, and that way you could be like, okay, I have my 3 homework assignments. I'll do them on this day at this time, this day and this time. But that also gives me this day and this time to study. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're all different types of learner, and finding out what type of learner you are will actually help you use your time studying and learning better or more advantage to you. That sentence didn't make any sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. Everyone learns differently, and it's important to know what works best for you. So if you go to this website, and you just type this like whole link in, it'll come up to a little quiz that'll have like a bunch of questions. It's not a bunch, it's like maybe like 15 or 20, I think. And you're gonna answer all those questions. And at the end of the exam or little questionnaire, it'll tell you what type of learner you are. And that could be really beneficial. For me, I learned that I'm more of a reading writer learner. So basically, like when I go through a presentation, I need to take notes and I need to like read it out loud or I need to write it down because that's the only way that I can remember versus hearing my professor read straight from the slides or just talk about the lesson plan doesn't really work for me because I'm not an auditory learner. So this website will help you will help you figure out, sorry, what type of learner you are, and that can really help you improve your studying skills throughout your time here. So I have a little activity that we did at the workshop in person, but you can also do this by yourself. So once you find out what type of learner you are, take an index card, take a piece of paper, and write down a few ways of studying that works for you. So I'm just going to give an example. For instance, like I said, I am a reading and writing learner. So what I wrote on my index card was to go back in the chapter and write down key vocabulary words. I also wrote down reading out the presentations out loud. Those are some things that work best for me. I also wrote down 3 days is usually my best time to study. I do a little bit on one day, a little bit on the second day, and then on the third day, I do like a quick review. And the third day is usually the day before the exam. You kind of just have to, play around a little bit to find out what works best for you. I know I'm a senior and I just figured out the best way to learn and study for me as in a year ago. So make sure that you are not, being again too hard on yourself about knowing exactly what's the right way to learn to study for you. It takes time, and again, it takes mistakes, and that's totally okay. And there are campus resources available for us as students. If you're having a harder time with your classwork, studying, whatever it may be, there's a Center for Learning Resources, which is the CLR. There's the Writing Center. There's the Center for Student Success. The CLR and the Writing Center are in the library. The Center for Student Success is in Maxey. And then there's also the Counseling and Psychological Services, which is CAPS, which is in Charter Plaza. Again, being a student can be super duper stressful, and all of these resources on campus are made available to us to help alleviate some of that stress. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you all for listening. Again, if you ever need anything, all of these campus resources are more than happy and available to help you or any student out. And thank you.